Oh boy, tomorrow we're expecting a big announcement when it comes to the current state of Ranked. And we're expecting to have some news from the developer about Ranked. And I think that there are three significant problems with Ranked right now. And a couple of them don't really affect everybody, but one of them specifically with AGATHA. And AGATHA is a problem, and I'm not sure why AGATHA has been created. And before we get into the problems with AGATHA and how it's possibly affecting you, I just want to acknowledge that players act in their own best interests. And it's up for the developers to de-incentivize players from doing shady behavior. So I think rather than pointing at players or accusing players of doing things, we really need to push it back to second dinner to fix the problem. If they're incentivizing certain behaviors, then that's a problem. So let's get into the three situations. The first situation is that they change the way the pools work at the beginning of the game. Like, you're in this beginner bracket at the beginning of the game, and it used to be that you could stay in the beginner bracket up until 594. Once you went to 600, you got pushed into like the broader, bigger bracket, where it largely was placing you against players with MMR rather than your collections. Well, they did a stealth change where it no longer does that. Basically, it not only looks at your collection level, but it looks on how many credits you have saved. And even if you don't have the boosters to spend them, you suddenly get paired up against people. If you're choosing to like hunker down in the beginner bracket and save your credits, it now counts the credits towards your collection level. So there was a specific situation with Educated Collins, who has a Smurf account, which he is collection level 475. And he cannot spend his credits because he does not have the boosters. He is rank 75. And apparently when you're over rank 70, the primary ranking method is MMR. We're going to go over an interview with a developer on Jara's stream, which talks about all of this. And Educated Collins on his collection level 475 account was getting paired up against a streamer that is infinite with all the cards. Like a pool 3 complete player with series 4 and 5 cards. There's some serious problems with the rank system. There's some serious problems with MMR. Now, that is a problem that doesn't really affect a lot of players. That affects new players, because there's a bigger problem that affects a lot of players, which we're going to talk about. But there's another problem that also doesn't really affect a lot of players, but it does showcase that there's a problem with this system. And big shout out to Code Deco for hitting rank 1000. They are Twitch streamers that I watch regularly. They're from UK somewhere, and they stream when I'm supposed to be asleep in the middle of the night, and I watch them all the time. They are hysterical. Now, what is happening for them is first of all, they're very good players, and they were able to hit rank 1000. And I actually don't want to disparage their experience because they are very good players. But this happens to certain players like Deco, Cam Best, and Educated Collins, where they are so good at the game that they don't have anybody to be matched up with, and they just get bots. And I actually kind of feel bad for them because they just play bots, and they can play a lot. And it's not their fault, right? Like, even Educated Collins in his video, he said, dude, it's like, what am I supposed to say? I play up against a lot of bots. And I know for me, I actually was worried about this, but I do this part-time because full-time cover another game, Marvel Strike Force. So I do this part-time. When I started getting to like 133, right now I'm at 129, I started asking these guys. I'd go into their stream and say, hey, when do I start getting bots? And the educated Collins told me, he said, well, it's not really about your rank. It's about your MMR. He said, however, comma, I noticed that I got a lot of bots when I got over 150. I don't want that to happen. I actually enjoy playing humans. I don't want to play bots. Why are bots even a thing? And so I've been able to keep my rank and my MMR into some sort of reasonable situation where I still play players, right? I mean, I play against a lot of the streamers, TSLG and Regis and Jeff and Specimen. And Molt. I play against all these streamers all the time, and I'm happy with that. So, but what this shows is that there is something seriously wrong with the ranked system. Now, what I'm going to talk about right here next is what we really need to be outraged about, and that Second Dinner is allowing this to happen. And what if I told you that collection level 3,000 plus players in Infinite were mostly playing Agatha decks? What percentage of Infinite players with large collections are playing Agatha? Would it surprise you that that number is 42.85% of all the matches in Infinite are players using Agatha to booster farm and battle pass farm? What they're doing is they are using, let's say, BlueStacks, which has a clicker, and they just load up an Agatha deck, and they only get Agatha boosters, and then they have a button that just gets pushed over and over with a script that's built into BlueStacks. It's not hacking. It's nothing. It's literally what the card Agatha was designed for. Second Dinner made a card to do this. So this is not the player's fault. This is Second Dinner's fault. The players are acting in their best interest. Now, this does two things for these Infinite players. One, it allows them to get crazy amounts of Season Pass rewards. Like if I go on my account right now, I am Season Pass 106. These guys get into the 400s, I believe, because they're doing this all day. And they get a lot of extra credits, a lot of extra variants. They get a lot of extra gold. Someone said that they're getting about $800 worth of value by doing this. The second thing, which directly impacts players when they start their climb in the next season, is that they are tanking their MMR to the ground. So these are Infinite players that are relatively good players, because they can get to Infinite, right? Well, maybe. They can get to Infinite, and they have all the cards. They have all the important Series 4 and 5 cards. They can build a Thanos Lockjaw deck. They can build a Shuri Red Skull deck. And when the season starts, they have a super bad MMR because their account has been playing Agatha for days. And because Agatha's a bad deck. And it's been playing Agatha, and their MMR is to the ground. And then a rank 30, a rank 40, a rank 50 player is now going to be placed against this person that is doing this Agatha farming, and they're going to destroy you. And this happens every season. And these players can get to Infinite very easily because their MMR is destroyed. This negatively impacts everybody. And this is an atrocious, absolutely horrible system that is completely created by Second Dinner. This system they created with the invention of the Agatha card. And Agatha is actually probably ruining the ranked system more than anything else. Now, I don't play a lot of Agatha. I've done it a couple times to test it out. Agatha starts in your hand and plays the game for you, and then you just need a clicker to hit next, 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 next. And when you play an Agatha deck, only Agatha boosters are awarded. And that's where you see these like screenshots like this, where someone has hundreds of Agatha splits, is because they're farming Agatha. So I know it's strange that Second Dinner, changed the way the matchmaking works at under 600. I don't think that affects a lot of people. I know that it's strange and it's kind of bad that smart, good players like Deco can play bots and get to rank 1000. It doesn't affect a lot of people. It's super terrible that infinite players can intentionally tank their MMR because they cannot drop below 100 by using a card that Second Dinner designed almost intentionally for this, so that they can get to infinite quickly and that they get better, more favorable matchmaking when the season starts. So again, I don't blame the players. The players act in their own best interests. This is a completely manufactured problem by Second Dinner and this card right here. So, and a lot of it also has to do with just the way the system works. When you go into infinite, you can't drop below infinite. So what do I think they could do to fix the system? I think there's two things. I think that they could reset MMR at the beginning of the season so that there is no penalty for doing very well, because you're penalized if you play too well, because then you just get bots. You're incentivized to play poorly so that you get weaker opponents. So if they reset the MMR or just deleted the MMR from season to season, which does not happen currently, I think that would be a good thing. Also, I think if the matchmaking system was more based off of rank than MMR, then we also would not be in this situation now. Let's get into some other posts, because I think this is super frustrating. Call me crazy, but I think that just using rank to match players in ranked mode would be much better than the current messed up system. I think everybody agrees that there's some problems with the system, but if I'm being honest, every game I've ever played has difficulty with satisfying people with matchmaking. It seems like every game I've ever played has kind of a horrible matchmaking system. Information for this game is scattered all over Discord. Discord is not a useful way of giving out information, is not organized well. And then there's also random tweets from various developers. Unless you're following all of the Second Dinner employees, information is being spread all over Discord, all over Twitter, and oftentimes the only place that you can find it is on Reddit. Reddit typically will find the important information and it'll make it to the top of Reddit, but it is scattered everywhere. And so a lot of the information I just have to find in a random tweet. Kind of frustrating. We're going to talk about this post. This post is amazing. So Dara is an amazing streamer, and he had a Second Dinner employee who is their data scientist. I also follow him on Twitter, and there was a 4-hour stream. Largely, he was not there on a official capacity. He was there on an unofficial capacity. And then Dara even clarified down here, some of these summary notes are a bit off. He was a bit more cautious, and most of these things were said with a maybe or around, while the notes make them seem like they were definite statements. But thanks for transcribing. So we're going to read these notes because I missed this, and it was a 4-hour stream, and these notes are super helpful. And he is a data scientist, I believe, so he does a lot of the analytics on what cards are strong. Best card at high MMR is Sauron. Now, I want to just briefly talk about that because it's true. I also believe that the data that's shown here on Snap.fan, which shows that Sauron has one of the highest win percentages, high Q percentages across the board, and a lot of people would just say that he is the best card. I think a lot of that happened before the meta reacted and pivoted hard to a Shang-Chi meta. So what I saw happen with Sauron is that he was very good at the beginning of the season, and then Shang-Chi appeared out of nowhere, specifically with Deathwave. And I had to look to other options like using Cosmo and Armor, which Sauron does not synergize with at all. So my suggestion is that Sauron is expensive. I don't see the value in spending collector tokens on it. Whether he adds value to the Shuri Red Skull deck or not is up for debate, considering the extreme cost. I do think the deck is more consistent, but in the current meta, let's say the last week, I think that the non-Sauron build is actually better because then you can use tools like Armor and Cosmo to protect your 9,000 power Red Skull. He also talks about Red Skull being on the top of the list. And then this has always been very confusing to me. Thanos, Quinjet, Lockjaw notes that Thanos is very good post buff and regrets not pinning it prior to the buff. And this kind of annoys me. Well, first of all, let's talk about Thanos as Thanos plus the stones. I'm not talking about Thanos the card. I'm talking about the Thanos package. I feel that Second Dinner should buff underperforming cards and then consider nerfing oppressive cards. This is logical, right? And so for me, I think they need to focus more on buffing cards. And I think they did a good job of buffing Namor, Dagger, and Spider-Woman. I think that's great. They need to do more of that, right? So that those cards actually have some sort of incentive to play them more and maybe they will get some use. Thanos was not in the bottom 10% of cards. Thanos was not in the bottom 25% of cards. He was not the 200th worst card in Marvel Snap. Why did they buff him? I don't understand the logic of buffing a top card at all. Like Thanos plus the stones was already an effective card, an effective situation in the game, and they buffed him. And I have lost numerous times to that 3-power buff. I lost today on stream, and I don't understand what they're doing. It feels to me that they want to make the game pay to win, and Thanos was their way of doing that. They wanted the players that spent the 6,000 collection tokens on Thanos to actually see value. And I don't know. I don't agree with that. I don't agree with them buffing Thanos and nerfing a card that probably didn't need nerfing. Darkhawk. I mean, Zabu nerf kind of stripped away most of the value of Darkhawk. And I don't understand the thinking there. Thanos is very good post buff, but regrets not pinning it. Then this is interesting. Shuri will not be nerfed anytime soon, if ever. Wow. When asked if Arrow is a problem, Arrow is a card we're keeping a very close eye on it. I wouldn't say it's a problem, but it's a good card. Mr. Negative limits design space before the nerf and beta, which is interesting. Cards that have low win rates, less than 50%, but good cube return. And I found this to be, these are very swingy cards, if you will, where when they work, you get a lot of cubes. Null, Hela, Doc-Ock, Death, and Wave. But they don't necessarily have high win rates. So they have high cube rates. Now, Mr. Negative currently is bad on both sides. And I've seen the data on this. It seems to me that most Mr. Negative players say things like, Mr. Negative is really swingy. Yeah, you lose a lot of matches, but you also get a lot of 8 cubes. The data actually suggests that Mr. Negative is not only bad on win rate, but also bad on cube rate. 5 worst cards in the game: Crystal, Agatha, Magic, Hawkeye. And so Magic is interesting. Thanos and Red Skull are among the best decks. Most placed deck that is below average is a Professor X Control. Galactus has a negative win rate, but a positive cube rate. Sandman, Wave, and generic Lockjaw is excellent, and Zabu is also. Thanos win rate is increased a lot post buff. Sarah Control is very mid. On ladder, you will only be matched against infinite players from rank 70. So apparently what they're saying is that you can only get infinite players from rank 70. That doesn't feel right. He wonders if dropping 30 ranks is enough on ladder reset. Wonders if going to the bottom but changing it to require the same numbers of games to infinite would be more enjoyable. Ego will never be a hot location. That's great. Decks queued are not considered in matchmaking. Okay. That's the second time I've seen a developer comment that. All right, and then this is interesting. We have some conflicting information that I also want to go over. 50% of players get to rank 40. 45% of players get to rank 80. MMR is based on both cubes and wins. We want people to get infinite to be dedicated and talent players. And then he believes that 1% players in infinite is a good target. Now, they have said that they feel that the number of players reaching infinite is lower than we want right now. We're always iterating rank modes as well, an area we want to continue to improve over time. And this is actually, I believe, his boss, which is Steven. And then Steven also said that depending on the season, it is between 3 and 10% of the players are hitting infinite. Okay, that'll do it for today's video. I really hope they fix ranked and make it more fair. I personally hope that they stop incentivizing players from using AGATHA. One of the things that they said they were going to do was that they were going to implement a system where the maximum amount of battle pass credits you can get a day is going to be capped, and that is supposed to go in play for this season. And then, of course, what this actually means remains to be seen tomorrow, where there's supposed to be a blog post addressing hopefully the following situations that I outlined in this video. Let me know what you think in the comment section. And before we go, I just wanted to say this really struck a chord for me. After 1,400 games, made it infinite today using Sandman to finish the last stretch. And I just want to say I had a season that was 1,600 games. I had a season that was over 1,200 games. And this last season was 450 games. There is no substitution to playing this game a lot. If you want to hit infinite, you just got to play a lot. And I just really appreciate what he's saying. Leech, Thanos, Kazar, you're cool. Oh, and I'm out. Let me know what you think. Bye for now.